Hi everybody, we're going to do all about the legs and the hips, so it's mostly hips. You'll need a chair or something that you can balance off, so we can just warm up the legs and hips before we go down to the mat. We're going to do a minute on today, so if it gets too tiring for you, just slow it down, control your reps, and make sure you're feeling every movement that we do. Because mind to muscle connection is the most powerful thing you can do. So even if you're only doing a few reps, you'll get more out of it. Okay, we're going to start to warm up with wide squats. A minute on, toes are out. So you go to your level. Make sure your core is on. Let's go. So wide squats. So we're just really warming up those hips. Obviously legs are involved with hips. Deep as you can. The deeper you go, the more you're going to release all the tight muscles. So you don't have to work speed. I want you to work really good mind to muscle connection. Think about the way you're working. Connect that mind to it. $12 seconds. Then I'll show you next move before I put the timer back on. And release. Okay, so we're going to use the bar. First we're going to work on opening up with big, large circles for the hip. Try not to lean too much, so whatever you're using. Okay, are we ready? Good core control. Lifting up, guiding with the knee. So imagine the knees doing the big, large circle. Really good core control. You're trying to stabilise the pelvis as much as you can. If you need a focus, think about how many reps you're doing each side. Just working the outer part of the leg. We're going to work the internal after. And release. So our next move is going to be across the body, working the internal and external as a team. Across, okay? Good core control, across, out, across. So you can go out as much as you wish, as long as you're not really tilting to the other side. Make sure those lower abs are connected in your pelvic floor. You'll get most out of the program. Keep the upper body nice and tall. Don't be looking down at your feet. Keep focused on watching me on the video. We'll keep swapping sides so we're not overloading too much, otherwise you may find it harder to cope with it. And release. Okay, so we're going to go to the other side. So big, large knee and hip circles. Are we ready? On the outer, really good core control. And start to compare what it feels like compared to the other side. Is there any tightness that you need to be aware of? Is there any cracking or clicking? If there is, your pelvis might be tilted. So keeping that pelvic floor and core on will help to readjust it. After this, we've got that in and out leg sway. And release. Okay, so we're in and then out. I really want you to think about elongating those muscles. Let's go. It's going to be the standing leg that's going to complain, that's normal. And you get some nice toning on those hips, but build them super strong, which is really important for a strong back. Okay, this time we're going to go back to the other side and just work those outer part, and we're going to lean and stay up and pulse it. I really want you squeezing the inner thighs, like you're stopping yourself from coming back to your neutral position. Okay, let's go. So add that resistance, like you're stopping yourself. Really think about that mind to muscle connection. When it starts to burn is when you're starting to make an adaptation, meaning you're starting to increase that fitness level. You're nearly there. And release. Okay, let's go to the other side, last one, then we're going to start to come down to the mat. Add that resistance. We're pushing out of the hip. Really stretch that leg away. If you need a break or it's starting to seize up because you've got to your highest level of your lactic acid, you tap it out. See if you can go again. We're nearly there. And release. Okay, so let's just move that object because we're coming down to the mat. We're going to start on the bottom and we're just going to loosen up those hips. Seated, we're going to have our hands back and we're going to go side to side. Side to side. Let me just move my mat closer. Okay, are we ready? Still a minute on. Abs stay tight, legs as wide as you can. If you can draw that knee to the floor, I would. Really increase that hip mobility. So we're going to come to this one quite a lot, just to keep flushing out those hips, to increase that mobility whilst we're adding that strength. After this, we're going to lay on your right side and we'll start with your left side. So you can either be fully side lying, which will give you more mobility, or you can be on side oblique lying, whichever's best for you. That will bring in the size of the waist and the size of the back. So I'm going to be on that one. More advanced, stack up. Less advanced, bend the underneath leg. Remember, it's about the quality of the repetitions rather than the amount. We're going to start with side ones. Let's go. Point up, flex. Try not to rock through your hip placement. I don't mind you flinging up, but resist it down. Keep focused on counting your repetitions. Release, tap it out if you need to. This time we're going to do circles forward. So you can either do small circles or you could do big large ones. So I would go for big large ones and bend the underneath leg. If you need to lay fully down, lay fully down. Are we ready? Still think about stretching away. Good core control. Nearly there, persevere. And release. Tap out that hip or leg if you need to. Now we're going to do our reverse circles. Now this can become very challenging, so don't knock out the hip stability. Think about really good controlled movement. Okay? Are we ready? In reverse. Really working the posterior part of the body, the back of the body. If you're really struggling, I'd lay down. Still stretch that leg away, halfway. And release. Okay, we're going to take that top leg back and we're going to work hand to leg. Work the internal. Try not to tilt your pelvis. Okay, you ready? action as well. After this, we're going to go back to that seated hip mobility with the legs before we go to the other side. I'm going to repeat the whole sequence we've just done. And release. Okay, so back to that seated hip mobility. As wide as you can with those legs. Trying to get the knees down to the floor. Let's go. You're also moving through your waist, so you're mobilising around that back, trimming the waist at the same time to keep the core on, just so you get most out of those muscles. By engaging, by focusing on what you feel. So when you go to the other side, you need to think about, did you go side lying or did you go on your oblique lying? Ready for your side ones. You think about how many reps you did and try your best to match it out. And release. Okay, so I was on my oblique. Did you bend the underneath leg or did you stack up like I did? Good core control, make sure you're stretching that leg away. Are we ready? I point and flex on the way down, just on getting front and back of the muscles in. There's no wrong or right, it just targets small muscles. Is that core on? And release. You need to tap out, do so. Remember, we've got those circles forward, so I bend my underneath leg just to create more stability here. Big, large circles forward. Are we ready? Think about your circle size that you did on the other. If you're on your oblique lift, you are going to get all the shoulders in and the size of the waist. I'm keeping my hand down in front of my body because I'm doing really large, and it'll just provide more stability. And release. If you need to tap out, tap out. Now we've got our reverse circles. You're doing amazingly well. Okay, are we ready? Reverse. Really good core. breathing through the move. And release. If you need to tap out, do so. Then we've got that underneath leg extension with the hand to the head. Okay, are we ready? Good core control. Squeeze the inner thigh. Keep stability in that pelvis. So you're keeping it facing forward towards me the whole time. After this, we're going to lay on our back and work frog pushers. Well done. Okay, so you can have a lift through your head if you want to bring in the front part of your abs. If you don't and you're just targeting the lower abs, whilst we do our frog pushers really wide, then that's your choice of whatever. So you can either lay down or you can take the progression by putting your hands behind your head and lift. So I'm going to go for that one. Soles of your feet together and then we extend out. The lower your legs are towards the floor, the harder it is on your lower back. So only do that if you have a strong core. If you do not, aim higher towards the ceiling. Let's go. And release. Bring your head down, keep your knees wide, and just rock side to side. And still keeping those hips open, just massaging out the back. Because if you've got tight hips, generally it comes from the lower back, just that some people don't feel it there. And as we start to loosen them, that's where it'll complain. Okay, so we're going to extend the legs out, go on your forearm if you can, because we're going to go over the other leg and out, touching the floor, over and out. So when you're on the same side, you will touch the floor. Good core control, you can fully lay down if you wish, put a cushion underneath your head. Let's go, one leg only, across, then out. By going across and out, we're getting the internal and the external rotator of the hip in. I'm trying my best not to rock through my pelvis and my lower back stays connected, which is just above the bottom. I'm also stimulating these shoulders, just to team in lovely with those abs, but you can lay fully down. Do what's best for you. Okay, we're just going to lay down and bring in that hip stretch of that leg. So just bring it across the body, take the head to the opposite, keep the shoulder down of the same side of the hip that you're releasing. Then we'll come back onto our forearm if you was on your forearm, and we'll do the other leg. Okay, let's go. So over and out, over and out. I'm really squeezing my inner thigh as well. Just takes a lot to stimulate this muscle, so I'm really trying to connect to it. After this, we've got that hip stretch. And release, hip stretch. So you can either stay down on your back as we're going to work scissors, where we're going to go really wide with the legs, cross over each time. For the minute, keep changing your crossover, or you can come up onto your forearm. So whichever best for you. Just stay relaxed in those shoulders. So we're going to go wide across, wide across. Okay, are we ready? So as you can see, I'm keeping my neck locked. I'm looking just as I see the tip of the toe. And I'm really straightening my legs as much as I can. You want to make it harder? Go lower towards the floor. You'll get more abdominals in. Just make sure that lower back stays down. After this, we're going to stretch those hips a little bit more onto our all fours. I'm going to open up those thighs and release. Okay, so I want you to go the width of your mat and keep your lower legs in par with the mat. You're going to bring the arms forward and you're going to push the pelvis back. And we're just going to rest into it if you can. Bring your head down to the floor if you're pushing back that far. If not, the position I just showed you is a good beginner position. Try and take those lower legs out further than the mat now. It's going to be more uncomfortable. You need to keep resetting yourself, reset yourself. If you need to fold the arms, like I'm demonstrating, do so. If you want to bounce slightly into it, you can. Only if that feels comfortable though. And then rest into it. Keep pushing that bottom back. Then come back up, walk those legs back in, come into mermaid. So you should be able to sit better in mermaid now. We've been working those hips. And let's take it over to a side bend, but don't collapse through the rib cage. So you can come down, but just make sure you're still lifting the ribs. You're still keeping the buttocks down on the floor. Let's do sides of back. Keep the chest open though. Lengthen the arm across without the shoulder blade lifting. So you're resisting it by pulling the shoulder blade down. Because we'll really work down the lateral kinetic chain. Still while sitting in our open hip move. Okay, let's go to the other side of mermaid. So our side bend first, make sure you're lifting, not collapsing that rib cage. If you're coming down into here. So you're still lifting the underneath rib up towards the ceiling. Shoulder blade is pulled down as you lengthen. Okay, let's do sides of back. Might be a bit more uncomfortable, pull your shoulder blade down, then lengthen over. Then we're going to remobilise again with some wide leg squats, and I want you to see if there's a difference of your mobility from when we first started. So we'll do 6. Okay, coming up to standing, whichever's best for you. Wide as you can, or where you was when you started, so you've got a good gauge. Deep. So can you sit your bottom down further? What do the legs feel like? Maybe like jelly. If you're not used to doing that. Last one. And walk those feet back in, and great work. Bye for now.